It is in my DNA to map and navigate. I come from a small fisher village, 5,000 people in Denmark on the west coast. And I am really Nordic. I'm Nordic in my thinking. I'm quite rational, really pragmatic, and then I add the soft a bit afterwards. But my father was a fisherman, told me, wherever you go in this world, get a map, orientate yourself. And I went to Colombia with him, by the way, and I'm going to Peru later on, and obviously not in the same extreme as the two wonderful explorers this morning. But even when I took him to Colombia with me, he said, I need a map because I feel uncomfortable until I've oriented myself. So I guess that his inspirational spirit, and he wasn't great in school, he was dyslexic and all of that, but he was a very good captain. He gave me what he could give me as a person, and it has informed everything I've done ever since. So I'd like to share a few things with you. Give you a few tools, and then I will relate that to tomorrow's women. It's going to be sound bites. I can't give you the future feature. I'm just going to give you the future, I should say, trailer. Now, in my line of work, it's well known that the future is not just somewhere we go. We actually create it. So there's hope for every one of us here. We can just start to decide today, I'm actually going to create my future. Over the years, for that purpose, I have developed a little toolbox for navigating the complexity that we are faced with constantly. And when you look at society today, I think it's safe to say that we are constantly bombarded with contradictory messages. Should we go fast? Should we go slow? How should I consume? Disposable, carry on as usual? Or should I be a little bit more sustainable? We read things in the newspaper, what is a big problem one day is suddenly not a problem the next day. I read a very interesting, sad one. If you eat too much cheese, you can get cancer. That was a Danish one. We love cheese and coffee. The next day it said, but you have to eat about a ton a year. So I think what is really important is to get our facts right. Now, I know that we are faced with a lot of challenges throughout our days, and just during a day that when we get up in the morning till we go to bed, we read the media, sometimes we're also faced with ethical dilemmas. You know, we don't really know what to choose, but sometimes it's good to sit back and not make a choice and just live with that contrast will always coexist. You just have to strike a happy balance. And also, of course, what does it tell companies and society? Well, more than ever, we look at economic models that have to be more agile. We speak about dialogue-driven models. But also what we have to do as people, we have to be more open-minded. As Einstein said, you cannot solve a problem with the same mindset that created it. And everything, and we know, all of us here know that communication is really difficult. It's all a mindset. And what is so lovely about everyone here, they're here to listen, you're here to, take things away, and you're open-minded. And I think that's a very good starting out point for trying to get into the future. Now, my first tool is my multidimensional platform. And I'd like to say that I come, of course, from the small village, 5,000 people. 2.1% of the people who live in where I come from, my village, 2.1% of those are academic. It would be the doctor, the dentist, and the priest. So in a way, I learned the hard way. I am a pragmatic, I would say practical thinker, and I really operate very much in the left brain sphere. Now, I guess that a multidimensional platform is a fantastic tool for the 21st century because it invites a new vision. A vision I call a whole brain vision. Because isn't it curious, for far too long, especially in the last century, in the 20th century, we banked on left brain thinking only. The minute people go to school, they're taught one thing, left brain. They're taught to count, but they're also taught to count things that doesn't really matter. I mean, they do matter, but if there's no emotion behind it, you're lost. So my dream and my message is to everyone here, please start to be open-minded to engage in a multidimensional thinking model. Balance logics and facts with intuition and vision. Even mathematician has realized that this is an important part of solving problems. Henry Le Poincaré, I'm really inspired by him. He's a mathematician, and he says that it's by logic we prove, but by intuition we discover. So tool number one, and this is what I use when I map out trends, because again, with all the contradictive messages, data that are out there, how do we sort it all out? We need very big computers. So I start out by using my intuition, but I look at what I feel, and this is important, what I feel is relevant for my audience. I also try to understand what is happening in the scientific dimension of the world, society, trends, people, the social dimension, the emotional dimension, and the spiritual dimension. And that way, I get a 360 degrees insight into the world. Again, this is not a map you're meant to read. It's like just to say, when you want to navigate, it's a good idea to have a map. You can't read here what the capital of Denmark is called. You probably know, but it's just the idea to say that if you map out things, you have a greater chance of decoding the cultural contents of society, looking at challenges we have to look at. And I don't know, how many of you are sort of working with trends in the daily day work? Okay, so you're probably all very familiar with PEST and PESTEL, the 20th century's model. Politics, economics, society, technology, and then they added environment and legislation sort of later on. Well, we are navigating in left brain thinking country only. Perhaps that's why we've had the challenge we've had, the economic challenges, that we have really only invested in left brain thinking. So please add the emotional and the spiritual dimension, people's value sets, people's cultural context, because that's really what makes us as people. This is just a tool to get there, and if they can all live in harmony, you have actually quite a good chance of navigating safely into the future. Now, I believe that the trend map is talking to us about a big trend. At least Irene was talking about it this morning, about an inclusive society. A society that embraces equality. I mean, our love affair with economic growth hasn't really given us more happiness. We have more money than ever, but are we more happy? Of course, we are in Denmark, you know. Nordic people, the happiest people in the world. And then somehow, I think, down on the third and fourth is the Colombians. I was married to a Colombian many years back. And yes, it was very happy. But again, happiness, can you measure that? It's also about authentic well-being. And we are looking elsewhere for really finding greater meaning. We are looking at moving from the me society into the we society. So the inclusive society, I guess, is a big trend, and we're also looking at who are the biggest transformer of this shift. I think that the transformation, the inclusive, I call them we-conomics rather than me-conomics. The we-conomics is also something that this whole, I would say, mission will probably be led by women. I also believe that a new, more inclusive society will lead to transparency and flexibility and more fluidity. We're already seeing more and more powerful women and leaders in top position in the world, and it's a great thing. I mean, now Denmark has just got Helle Thorning-Schmidt. She's ruling in the EU for 6 months, supported by Mutti Merkel, Angela Merkel. But we also have Christine Lagarde. So we've got some powerful women out there. But again, a world only filled with women would be a disaster. I think what I'm talking about here, inclusive, I'm talking about striking a happy balance. I think also encouraging the trend, the inclusive equality is something that we will all benefit from. And it will benefit society and company as a whole. And I guess that the empathic leadership, which we're talking about as a model, a leadership model, empathic leadership come perhaps a little bit more natural to women. So when I look at the trends, especially the inclusive, I've taken a handful of top trends, my list, cherry-picked them, and I like to think about those trends as future sound bites. Have you never thought about a thing, when you read about a trend, it doesn't make so much sense. You think about, okay, this is a trend. how does it affect you and me? Really start to think about trends as being very interconnected. And when you take those future sound bites, maximum 2 or 3 in a cluster, they start to give you a little future scenario. And this is exactly what I've done. I've taken those trends, I've sort of thrown them into a map, and then I've attached human values. Because when you have a trend, they talk back to you in an informed manner. They talk about what the value of this trend is. If you attach it to people, it has a slightly different meaning to as if you would attach that to a company or a society. But I thought in order to give you a little sort of sneak preview into the future, take the trends from my list, map them out in a sort of mindset map, the rational and emotional, the me and the we, the hunters and the gatherers, and really just to give you an idea that this is what we go through during the day or during the week. We can be quite rational here, where dialogue and flexibility is informing our choices, but that's, when we're pragmatic during our day-to-day dealings. But also our values, what drives us in life, the emotional and spiritual dimension, is more about meaning, engagement, participation, and community. I know this is a very simplified matter. Now, it's not that you are one or the other. This is, of course, now to talk about tomorrow's women, but it's also very much about trying to give you an idea of how you can navigate complexity. The map talks to you about situations you go through a day. We're not clean-cut types, but rather a mix of those. But also, it gives you a tick list as companies to tick the boxes in order to find out what are the topics that I must address for the future. Now, I'm just going to give you a quick snapshot of those women. Who are they and what are they going to be doing in the future? Now, I just also want to add one thing, that all of those values talk to us about tomorrow's economic models. We have one model that will count for the future, which I call triple P bottom line. First, you must consider the people, then the planet, and then you can start counting your profit. Now, that is really important. But when I look at the values from the map, and I map them out as clean-cut types, I get the professional, the premium professional, ambitious, high achiever. If she is in Asia, she is the tiger mom. Technology drives her life because she wants the optimized life. For her, it's lifelong learning. And mobility and global citizen also informs her choices. She is not your ordinary businesswoman. I mean, she doesn't call home on her mobile phone. She will probably have a video teleconference with her husband, who's cooking, child playing an educational game. Even McKinsey is saying that women is a very important part of the equation. They can, in a way, grow the GDP, the gross domestic product. But also 60% of women being educated today in European academia are all women, or 60% of the leavers, college leavers, university leavers are women. Then we have the happy boheme, expressive, creative, live their life on Facebook when times allow. They always prioritize we time over me time. Anything that have the promise of packaging, quality time together, it's them. Here in the futuristic kitchen from Philips, cooking for her friends while the kids are playing with the iPad. And the latest product is, of course, this Lego conferencing table, because she works from home. But it also doubles as a dining table when all her friends come around. Again, here I like to say that technology is one of the biggest driver, and also, I would say, empowerment of women. Economist says that the biggest technology that empowered women in the 20th century was the washing machine. This century is definitely technology. And I think it's important to understand that the advance that has happened because we don't need muscle skills but brain skills. That's why women are catching up with men. I think it's interesting to see that those two pragmatic types really gives you a good idea of what we'll be seeing tomorrow. Now, this is the Nordic version. This woman is driving her kids to kindergarten in the Christiania bike. Have you heard of the Free State Christiania? They have a little site where they build bicycles. She works in Medican Valley. Because her lifestyle is so scientific, left brain oriented, she lives in this perfect house. Looks like my summer house, sort of, in Norway. But better world and ethics is what motivates her. It's kind of me on a Saturday when I go to Borough Market and buy wholesome food. Her recipe to happy kids is sticky floors and dirty ovens. She thinks that's fantastic. Because she has a strict, rational working life, she needs to balance it to probably even have a little allotment. Now, the last of my types, and I would love to talk about those forever, but I have very little time left, is the karma hunters. They're mindful, intuitive, extremely efficient, and also, of course, future-oriented. This is me in my white home. My kids are all clean, perfect hair. And then I have the mirror, which is this fantastic mirror, which is a self-diagnostic mirror. It does actually exist as prototyping. I put my hand in there, mirror, mirror on the wall. It tells me, you put on half a kilo, it's okay, it was a wine you drank, so just go running. You eat this, and on Saturday, if you follow this schedule, you'll be fine. I also feel I have a little bit of a cold, so suddenly I get a little window. You want to speak to your DP, and you have chat with him while you're brushing your teeth. He says, okay, you take a glass of whatever, hot water with lemon, and you will be just fine. Otherwise, contact me in the afternoon. The idea here is to talk about this rational mindset, but still looking for the sort of bettering of themselves. Health and happiness drives this particular group. And for them, actually, happenomics is big. I would love to speak more about the happiness. The front cover of Harvard Business Review is speaking about happiness at work. Women in the workplace, women-ruled organization, in fact, has better results because they create I would say, a much more empathic environment. But more about that later. My time has run out. I would like to leave you with a few thoughts on the future. I do believe that a measure of a 21st century society is how it sees its people, how it treats the planet. And I think P is the new norm. And tomorrow's empathic leader, probably a woman, knows that radical transparency is important. I mean, in Denmark, Scandinavia, we have e-government. Everything, you have a PIN code, you go on the internet, and this is how you find out things about yourself. But really, I think that this openness, transparency, inclusiveness is so important for building trust and cementing long-lasting relationship with people, the community. Now, last but not least, it's important to understand that success in the future and meaningful dialogue is all very, very closely put together. You can not only create economic wealth, you also have to look at social value and emotional value. So that's what my thoughts I'd like to share with you. Thank you.